Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here for a first review of season 11 of Sister Wives. This episode had a lot of stuff in it, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Bear with me because I did not bring the normal stand that I put my stuff on, so I'm holding my Mac, and this episode is lengthy. Let's begin. I can't make an excuse for Mykelti at this point. In this episode, she came off as extremely selfish and entitled and immature to me, but we'll get into it. So it's wedding planning time. Maddie comes over and asks if she could speak with Truly. We see her go into Truly's room and she asks her if she would like to be a flower girl for her wedding. She immediately says yes. It's so cute. There's no hesitation whatsoever. Maddie asks her if she knows what a flower girl is, and she goes into detail about what a flower girl is. She's so smart. Now, there's a possibility that Christine already filled her in, but either way, she was very descriptive and she made it known that she knows she's going to have to toss her petals out of her basket and all those things. She says truly in her confessional that she's really excited to be able to be a flower girl in Maddie's wedding because she wants to drop her flower petals. She asks Maddie what type of dress she's going to have on, and she hopes that one of them will be blue because she said that she needs two because she wants to change. I think it's so cute. Truly was so cute back then. Always very smart. So she gives Maddie a hug and she tells her, "Thank you for letting me be in there." Now it's time to talk about Mykelti. You can see the stark difference in the joy with the response to Christine with the announcement of Maddie's situation versus Mykelti asking for Tony to be able to speak with Kody. The part that was most interesting to me, which we'll get into it in the end, is I never realized that Maddie and Mykelti at this point are the same age. But it doesn't seem like it in their level of maturity. We'll get to it. Seeing how this played out in the beginning, I do not blame Christine for being hesitant about the whole situation with Tony and Mykelti. We are reminded that in Hawaii, Mykelti let her mother know that she and Tony had been dating for 5 months. Christine didn't even know that it had been that long or that it was that serious. So now Christine is going to talk to Kody about the conversation that she had in Hawaii with Mykelti because she purposely waited until they were home from vacation because she wanted to make sure that Kody can enjoy his vacation, and also because she didn't want to blindside him by having Tony approach him before he knew what it was about. So she calls him and says, "I got my favorite line that you love to hear," which is sarcasm, of course. And she says, "I have something I need to talk to you about." Kody then goes on this whole spill about how he hears these type of messages from the wives all the time. And he immediately starts wondering what it could be about. So he tells her, "Okay, oh boy, I'll see you in a minute." Christine admits to not being very enthused when Mykelti told her about getting married. She said she just kept finding herself saying, "Really? Really? Really?" And they showed clips of her saying, "Really? Really? Really?" She said she was saying "really" while Mykelti was just excited. And looking back at it, she wishes that she was more supportive and more understanding and even more excited. I don't think that there was anything wrong with the reaction that Christine had because it was her true reaction. There was no point in faking it. You were blindsided. You didn't even know that your daughter was taking this situation with this young man seriously. So it's okay for you to be hesitant. She says, but the truth is she's not, apologetic for the way that she acted. And she doesn't know Tony. Kody arrives looking concerned. Christine immediately lets him know it's not about you and I. You see a little bit of relief in him, but it doesn't last long because he's given the news by Christine that Tony wants to talk to him and the reason why. Kody then in turn says, "Really?" I guess this is just the response for the family. He's in shock because he said the family hasn't even had time to vet him. And Kody really vetted, the bird. That's what he likes us to think. So he wanted to make sure that he vetted Tony. Christine thought that Mykelti, what in the world? Oh, Christine thought that what Mykelti was going to ask of her, sorry, my notes are a little jumbled there, was if, she could be courted. She didn't think it was going to be about marriage. As she's talking and thinking, about this whole situation, I'm wondering what was the difference in time that they knew Caleb versus them knowing Tony. And I'm not talking about them knowing Caleb because that was Kody's brother's brother-in-law. I'm saying through Maddie, what was that stance? Because this is a notably different reaction. Kody says 6 months ago, Mykelti wanted to move to Seattle. It's a childish ambition. We redirected her because we didn't have the money and we felt like St. George would get her to refocus and get her back to UNLV. So they used St. George as a means to try to rein her back in, but it didn't work, which it wouldn't because she had a job. She had her own apartment. She immediately connected with friends. She felt good being off on her own. So it backfired. So he's sitting on the couch with Christine talking about how maybe they should just move her back to that area. So are y'all paying for her rent? Because how do you think just because you want her to move back, she's supposed to move back? Kody says maybe if she moves back, then they can do a long distance courting situation. And that would allow us to get to know Kody more. Of course, he's going to say something completely different once he's in front of Tony and Mykelti because he's such a flip-flopper. If he's not paying for her rent, don't expect for her to move back to start courting because for her, that would be a step back because they've already been courting. They just haven't made the title of it, but that's what they've been doing. And she's saying, I want to get engaged. Then y'all skip that because first it's courting, then it's engagement. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section below. Kody assumes that Tony is a good kid because he's LDS and because he chose to join as a teenager. I don't feel like that alone makes you a good kid, but in Kody's eyes, it does. Mykelti, on the other hand, he says is high energy with high goals and a lot of dreams, and he doesn't know if Tony will be able to handle her. I feel like all those dreams departed once she got with him because she went from saying she wanted no kids and she wanted to be a fashion designer and she didn't feel like she wanted to get married to now she's so eager to get married, which yes, granted when she said that she was like 17 years old. This is 2 years later. That's such a drastic change in 2 years. Christine did say that she felt like she didn't grow up like some of the other kids because she stayed with Aspen, who was still mothering her. So is she really ready for something so serious? At the time, I felt like no, but I guess she's proven that she is because her and Tony are still successfully married with children. Kody says, right now, we're in the middle of Madison's wedding. We're busy. I need time to be able to recover financially from the first wedding. I got to be honest. I think it was a little selfish of Mykelti to announce this the way that she did, knowing the timeline, because if I remember correctly, they discussed that they would be taking this trip to Hawaii around Christmas time. The announcement was made. Then they said that the trip was going to be like in April, which means that at this time in April, you already knew that your sister's wedding was a few months away. Like April to May, May to June, two and a half months away, we'll say. And you already knew in your mind that this is what you had planned out even before you had this conversation. But we'll get into it. I just feel like it's selfish. Kody doesn't want to divide the family by doing 2 weddings because he feels like they'll be split in as to what they're focusing on. He has that knowing Mykelti, she would want to do it a month before or after Maddie's wedding. And Mykelti, we find out, had tried to join the Mormon church and they said no. Kody says that, maybe this will be a good test for them. I wish that Mykelti had spoken with Maddie first to see how she felt about her trying to have this wedding or this engagement well, no, not even the engagement, this wedding so close to hers, because if the roles were reversed, I would expect that of my sister, and I know that I would do that for my sister. I think it's just selfish. Allow your sister to have her moment, but that's not the type of person that Mykelti seems to be sometimes. Mykelti seems to be very much so I-driven, but that's just my opinion. Let me know yours. Christine suggests that they invite Tony and Mykelti over for dinner so they can start to get to know them as a couple. Tony and Mykelti do come over, and we see them preparing the dinner, whatever, and we find out that they met, according to Mykelti, while playing Frisbee, and he asked her out. But I don't feel like that's how they met, because didn't Tony work at the pawn shop or something like that? Or maybe I'm wrong, because as I said, I didn't watch this before. You all let me know what you've been told about how they met. Here they're saying that they met via playing Frisbee. He asked her out. She said no, but then eventually he asked again and she said yes. We see them sit down for dinner and their energy just looks off. We don't see a whole bunch of what's being said because it's just like voiceover, music playing, whatever. It just looks uncomfortable. Tony lets us know that if Kody says no, he's going to ask why. I would have said no just to see if he would have did like what Joe did from Love Times 3, which is wait a whole nother year and change for approval. I know there are successful marriages with even shorter time frames, and obviously it has worked for them with them being married and 3 babies. I just wonder what the rush was, and I do feel like some of that had to do with them, trying to remain pure. Tony asks to speak to Kody. He does so in Christine's bedroom because Kody says he wants to sit right next to him. I don't know who Kody thought he was intimidating, but it wasn't intimidating anyone. Tony gets straight to the point and he says, I want to talk to you about Mykelti. I love her and I want to marry her. Kody does not want to do this. He does not want them to do this Mormon style where it's supposed to be an eternal marriage and then they hurry up and get married after 3 months. He wants them to take their time with it. I feel like Kody has seen a lot from his various marriages and he sees the benefits of a longer courtship. For him, that would be the bird, because that was the longest of his courtships. And at this point, I think what Kody deems as the most successful, because he actually likes and loves her. He wants to know how Tony feels about Mykelti not being able to join the church. And Tony says that his faith is important. But he loves the fact that even though Mykelti wasn't able to get baptized, that she's still going even though she can't join. Me personally, if you won't allow me to be baptized in your church, which is insane that they come up with these concepts, even though the whole point of baptism and immersion doesn't have to do with all this stuff that they're adding to it, but whatever. You wouldn't have to worry about me being a part of the church. He tells him he would love to be married in the temple and have it sealed, but if they can't do it right now, that's okay. Maybe they can do it later, which means if the temple marriage doesn't matter when it comes to that, I don't understand how you would work around that and remain in your faith, because isn't the temple marriage supposed to be an important part of the marriage in their faith? It confuses me. I feel like I don't understand this enough to really comment on it, but obviously Mykelti meant more to him than his faith, because he wasn't even willing to see a way around it. He just felt like it would work itself out, whether it be presently or in their eternal life, according to him. Kody tells him, I would like your commitment that you would never discourage your children from plural marriage. In other words, don't separate my grandkids from me. Tony says his children can choose, what their faith is the same way that he did. He grew up in Catholicism, and if he wasn't raised the way he was, then he wouldn't have been able to determine what he wanted to do when he was 17. Kody says, I would like to give you my blessing, but I need more time, like 10 months to a year. So what do you think about December? Mykelti apparently already expressed to Tony that she wants to get married very quickly, meaning that she lied to her mother in the last episode of the season of last season, where she told her mother, "Don't worry, Mom, we're not trying to do it right away. Lie to me if you want to. I bet they be paying for that wedding themselves. Don't try to play in my face about what it is that you want to do. Be open and honest, because either way, my opinion is not going to change. Now, you lie to me and then I find out the truth, then I'm going to get upset. And then you may not have the type of financial backing that you're expecting." Tony says she wants to be married soon because she wants a lot of time to plan her wedding. Now, if you hear that, you would think that she legitimately wanted a lot of time, until we find out when she wants to do the wedding. He says, "I'm going to pop the question soon because she would like it to be sometime this coming August." Meaning, Maddie's wedding is 2 months away. So she wants this wedding in less than 4 months. But you don't want a wedding quickly. He says, "I'm going to pop the question soon." August is soon. So he must be planning to pop the question tomorrow, because that doesn't even give Kody a half a year at that point. At that point, they wouldn't even have been together for a year, because they didn't even get together until October. Kody says that's not cool. But at the same time, he's worried about them eloping. His third request is that they remain abstinent until they get married. He wants to make sure that the sexuality does not mess up the foundation. I wonder if he applied those same rules to himself when it came with Robin. I'm just asking, because he seems to really have a lot to say about what goes on with his kids, while he's not doing what I feel like he should be doing either. Because him and the birds seem very comfortable, very early on with each other. Even though he was telling his kids they shouldn't be kissing, he was kissing a bird left and right. Even when his wife was in labor, he was kissing and texting, because Christine's in labor and he's sitting there texting Robin. But let me focus. Christine and Mykelti end up coming into the room. Tony expresses his love for her, as does Mykelti. She says that she doesn't feel like he'll do anything to harm or hurt her, that he's going to protect her. Easy to feel that way when it's only been a couple of months, but whatever. For the first time, Christine hears that they want to have this wedding in August. Mykelti knew this all along. Why didn't she tell her mother this in Hawaii? It's been a little over 5 months of them dating. In confessional, Kody says, them getting married in a couple of months is the stupidest thing that I ever heard. But why not say that in front of their faces? In front of their faces, Christine is the only one truly expressing herself, which makes Christine look like the bad guy. But this is what Kody does. Kody says one thing one-on-one with the wives, and we've seen him do this with Christine a couple times, even when he told Christine he wanted to move back to Utah. And then when he got in front of the wives in Flagstaff, he then said, "Oh, Christine wanted to move back." Same thing with this. You had a problem with it and it was too soon and all these other things. But then when you get in front of them, you kind of downplay it a little bit and put it all on Christine. Christine says it's soon. Kody says they'd be more comfortable with December, that he feels like it's going to be difficult for them to celebrate them in 2 months after just doing Madison's wedding. He says this will clobber me, which we know financially. Mykelti says, "I think it's very funny that my father thinks that this is going to require so much energy and so much time to recoup from another wedding. He can do it in just a week." If the man didn't have money to move her to Seattle, why does she think that he has money to pay for back-to-back weddings? It shows her age, that she's not being considerate. These people have kids in college, they have multiple mortgages, and they have multiple bills and multiple children, and they just came back from a trip. Now, it may have been all expenses paid, but either way, they've done a lot of things where they may not have this money. It's selfish. Then you have her buffoon of a husband say, well, he can always get a loan against his house. Who? Sorry, that first who was a little who. Who does he think he is? Who does he think he is that he's saying they can always get a loan? Why don't you get one? Why don't you tell your parents to get one? Because it's real tacky that you're sitting up here in a confessional with the woman that you want to marry, basically telling her parents what your expectations are, not being considerate of the funds that they're going to be putting into it. He adds, it would be cool for Mykelti to see her dad making what she wants to happen when she wants to, rather than when he wants to. Excuse me? So you're just as immature and selfish as the woman that you want to marry. I don't even like Kody. And this fool, Tony, has me taken up for him. I'm sure that her parents want to make it happen for her, despite not really feeling like the time is now. But I'm not about to go in debt for some guy that my child has known for all of 5 months. That seems rather entitled and expects me to pay for it, and then is trying to advise me on how to do it. They would be paying for that wedding by themselves, especially after I saw this clip, because it's ridiculous the way that they sat there being the immature dodo birds that they are, thinking that Kody and the other moms have to do this, because apparently they all chip in when it comes to weddings. She says she wants to have a park wedding. And a park wedding can't be done in December. She wants trees, grass, and pretty everywhere. Isn't that ironic? Maddie's doing an outdoor wedding. You put park on it because you say it doesn't require a venue. But boo-boo, a lot of places like the park still require for you to get approval to have a wedding there. You can't just set up and think you can do it. Some of them might not let you do it at all. So it is a venue, depending on where you go. But what she wants sounds similar to what Maddie has. I wouldn't be surprised there. You all tell me what you think. Kody says, well, if you want all that, we can do it in the backyard. Tony's like, I thought they had to be joking when they said that. Mykelti says, so this is you saying yes to Tony marrying me. And he says, you have my blessing. And she gets all excited. Way to be united with your wife, Kody Brown, who you know does not want this. Christine is distraught by this yes. He says, I'm good with it, but I don't know about mom. You know, let me throw her under the bus yet again. She says, I'm waiting for the moment to hit me where I'm like, they're perfect together, where I see that spark. That's the final confirmation for me so that I can be, you know, at peace about it. And I appreciate her truth. In confessional, Tony says, they're not getting married. It's us. If you truly feel that way, then why go through the trouble of acting like you needed the blessing? He claims that he'll try to wait for Christine. Christine then says to Kody after they leave, I can't believe you said yes. He's now saying if it feels right, then let them. So he switched it up, as he always does, before talking about back to Christine. Christine says, I'd like to talk to Don and Chris about this to see what they know. So it's the next day, and Don and Chris just happen to be in town for business. So they're going to make a thing of it. I think this was already planned, but whatever. We're going to go with the story that they just happen to be in town. They asked about what's been going on with Mykelti. They said she's been dating a lot. She's doing good. She's hanging out with a lot of college kids at the church that they thought that it'd be a thing where she'd be coming over every weekend to have dinner and stuff, and she hasn't. They talk about how she started going to the Mormon church, and Kody says that the Mormon church is more of a fit for her. They want to know what happened with her joining. Chris says they didn't let Maddie join. No, he didn't say that. He said it was similar to what happened with Maddie. Basically, we know that they didn't let Maddie join. They got a phone call from whatever president. And in this case, with Mykelti, they got a letter coming from the president not letting her join. As long as their parents are public polygamists, their kids cannot join the Mormon church. Which, to me, if that's the case, if you're condemning me for what my parents' choice is, then I don't need to be a part of your church. They talk to them about this impending engagement. Don says if they're in love, let them do it. Kody says you have to negotiate the contract. And Don and Chris are looking like, what do you mean the contract? That's not romantic. Don says it's about those two, so let them do it. You know, we were young at that point and we felt the way we felt. And Kody doesn't see it that way because Kody realizes now that he didn't love his wives the way that he thought he did back then. But that's not what he's saying. He feels that they need to consider other people's feelings too. And I kind of agree a little bit, more so about how Maddie would feel about this and how their parents' pockets would feel. Chris says the hardships will get them closer together. I don't feel like that's always the case. Just because it brought you and your wife Dawn closer together doesn't mean it's going to bring these people closer together. Kody says in his wives, he's learned that time is a vetting process and that time helps. Christine says that this is making her wonder how much of herself at this point, if Don and Chris are okaying this, that she's putting into the situation. She's going to have to talk to her sister wives. She's nervous about how they'll respond. So we then see it's later that day. Kody calls the wives and asks them to come over so they can talk. He's nervous. She's nervous about telling them because of how heavy it feels. And she's worried what Janelle will feel like because she's not trying to overstep Maddie, and she wants to make sure that Janelle feels like she's protecting Maddie's wedding. Kody says it's hard not to think that she's not trying to upstage Maddie. Christine says she's a ditzy girl. She doesn't think like that. I don't know if I personally believe that. I think that a lot of times they didn't give Mykelti enough credit. I think she was trying to have what Maddie had because she made a point of mentioning how her mother didn't even react the same way that she did with Maddie when her mother had knowledge of Caleb. So, which I gotta be fair. If I announced to my mom that I was getting engaged, I kind of did. If I announced to my mom and she was like, okay, wow, I would be hurt comparing that to what someone else did. So I can't act like I wouldn't have compared it to. I would have. So Christine lets them know that Tony asked for Mykelti's hand in marriage. And all of the moms look shocked. And Robin says, whoa. Now, if the bird says whoa, it's a whoa. She says, it's 5 months of dating and they want to get married in August. Janelle says, holy cow, I'm speechless. Meri says she feels bad because the energy is completely different for Mykelti than it was for Maddie, and we get a flashback of it. Janelle, in her confessional, says, why wouldn't she want to wait to announce this until after Maddie's wedding, which I agree. Why the big rush to try to have 2 weddings in one summer? I agree that it's selfish. Janelle, I feel like for Janelle to say that, it had to be bad. Because Janelle normally wouldn't speak out on it. But Janelle's like, why would she do this? It had to be bad. And she knew it would probably affect her daughter in some way or another that she felt the need to say that. Because Janelle is anti-confrontation. Y'all remember, she's working on it, but she's anti-confrontation. I wonder if she had a discussion with Maddie. But then again, she wasn't that close to Maddie. She's even said it on her Patreon at times that she wasn't close to the other siblings, that the older girls were together. And I kept thinking of Maddie as an older girl when they're really the same age, but she is the older girl because she's the oldest in her family as a girl. In confessional, she says, let Maddie have her time and then Mykelti can have her time. Janelle tells Christine that Mykelti seems young and it seems like she hasn't lived. Even though Maddie is the same age, it doesn't seem like Mykelti's ready. And Robin says, well, they are the same age. Meri adds, yeah, they're the same age, but Madison has always felt older than Mykelti for some reason. And that reason is because Madison is more mature. It happens sometimes. The Bird says she doesn't have to have our approval. She doesn't. And if she doesn't want your approval, then don't pay for it. Simple fix to me. Janelle says, we're not asking them to wait 5 years. We're asking them to wait 6 months. I like for them to wait until we have time to regroup until after Maddie's wedding. She says, I'm worried about pulling off 2 special weddings that close together. Way to go, Janelle. Way to speak up. Way to put your thoughts out there. Way to look out for your family. Janelle doesn't play when it comes to the finances. And I'm sure that's one of the things that she was talking about when she said special financially. Like, we don't want to sit here and just throw something together so you say you got married. We want to pour our finances into it, but we want to be smart about it. The Bird says, Mykelti is impulsive. She's like a firework, but if guided right, it's great. Meri says, I don't want to sound rude, but she's always done this. This is what Mykelti does. Janelle agrees, but doesn't want to hurt Mykelti's feelings. So she's being very cautious of what she says in confessional. Christine says she is trying to always do what the other girls do. So all the moms have the same consensus about her, basically with the exception of Robin. They all feel like she's too immature. Meri says sometimes you have to do what you feel, not what everybody else is doing. And I'm just concerned that with this timing, that she's just doing this because of what Maddie's doing. Then Robin says, are they rushing this because of sex? I think that's a strong possibility. That's pretty much the end of that scene. We then get to Maddie and Caleb. The family is in Montana to look at vendors for their wedding. So Janelle, Kody, Christine, and Meri have joined them. The family is providing dinner for the guests, so they're going to be meeting with Emily, who is a caterer. Maddie says not only are they going to, be having food provided by Emily, but they're going to have a bar with alcohol at their wedding. Kody says some of the family drinks and some of them don't, because traditionally Mormons do not drink alcohol. Janelle, now we know, has a full service wine rack, so her thoughts on drinking went out the window. And Christine doesn't hesitate to grab a wine when she's on camera, so I love that for them. Kody says, is there going to be a drink limit? Because we don't want anybody to get funky, and I don't want them to get slushed. When Kody first said it, I was prepared to call him judgmental because there are plenty of people who know how to handle their alcohol. But then Maddie quickly says that she has friends, and so does Caleb, that don't know their limit. So they want a bartender or someone who will monitor her that. And I'm feeling like you have friends that don't know their limit and you expect for them to be monitored. Maybe limiting how much they have is a good idea. Janelle says, we don't have to drink it. And Kody says we might. They joke about it. We see them taste a different food. Maddie talks about some of her reoccurring nightmares, like her dress not fitting and the cake falling. Meanwhile, Caleb lets us know he's sleeping fine. They pick out what they're going to get entree-wise, and then they go to the next spot, which is flowers. We find out that Caleb's family is Bohemian. They are from Czechoslovakia. So we're given a lesson on how when Germans were invading, the Czechs fled and grabbed whatever they could, which gave them that Bohemian nature. So she wants to have a Bohemian theme. I'm not really sure what that means, but I'm seeing like little different variations of what she wants, and it looks nice. The owner asked if she could tell from all the moms which one is Maddie's biological mother. She struggles for some reason with eliminating all the moms. She just eliminates Christine and leaves it between Janelle and Meri. But I don't know how she got that wrong, because Maddie looks just like Janelle to me. A lot of Janelle's kids look like her. I just thought about her, Garrison. Garrison looked like her, and then Garrison looked like Leon, and then Hunter definitely looks like her and Maddie. And the only one out of them to me that sometimes don't look like any of the other siblings is Logan and Savannah, as far as in terms of Janelle, but they look like their other siblings. It's weird. I could be wrong. Y'all tell me what you think. She says polygamy is interesting. She can see the perks of it. Like, my husband can sleep there because he snores. They talk about how Maddie wants to have 2 bouquets. She wants one to do a toss. And they're like, if you toss a bouquet, you're going to have a garter. Kody thinks it's tacky. He's not comfortable with her hiking up her dress in front of everyone. That's understandable. Janelle says it's not a sexual thing. People do make it sexual these days, though. I was going to say videos. Forget videos. I've been at weddings where I've seen men take their teeth to grab it. And when I see it, I'm like, there's no way. If I was a man, no wonder why when the husband tosses it to the bachelors in the thing, they all spread out. They don't want to touch it because your teeth were just on it. Final stop is the cakes. What? I don't know what I was trying to write here. Oh, the wives for the umpteenth time let us know in their culture how weddings are celebrated. They're having fun trying the cake. You even see Christine and Meri joking around, and Meri talking about how good she is. So Christine's like, lick it, Meri, and she licks it because it's so good. I love when they're like this. I love to see when they're getting along. It's going to be 300 people there. Maddie picks almond cake and white chocolate for the wedding cake. The moms are laughing like, okay, so out of all these things, we're going to do white on white. And it was a lot. It was a spread. She also was thinking about having like a naked cake where you see more of the cake with slight frosting and layers and then flowers. I do love those cakes. They're beautiful. And I don't like a lot of icing. Like, I always end up taking a lot of that off. So I think that's a smart choice. Christine says, let's do a red velvet groom cake in the shape of an elk with huckleberry goo because Caleb loves huckleberry. This is not still magnolias is what I was thinking. We do not need an armadillo on the table. But Maddie says at first that it's too redneck and corny. Then she looks at him and she goes, do you really want an elk cake? And he says yes. So Maddie says, okay, we're going to go with the elk cake with the red velvet and the huckleberry goo. I love how she included him on that. And she saw that even though she didn't want it, she wanted to make sure that he had something in it. We then see Meri playing with the dog. Kody comes over so they can talk. They talk about how they'll probably be keeping the dog a little bit longer because of Leon's schedule with school and finals. Kody is planning on seeing Leon next week. Meri says, I think that would be a good idea. They aren't really talking to me because they're still mad at me. So you're not talking to me, but you expect me to keep your dog. Yet another thing I wouldn't be doing. And I love doggies. But you're not going to use me for your convenience, Leon. Meri talks about how Leon is supposed to come home this summer, but she can't have Leon being defensive and cold towards her. She says Leon seemed like they were having a good time in Hawaii, but every time I asked Leon to take a picture, Leon would give me attitude. Kody says, okay, come on, I do that too. And she goes, no, I feel like Leon is blocking me emotionally and that Leon is disrespectful to me. I'm going to have to agree there a little bit about the block and the disrespect. And I'm not saying Leon doesn't have a legitimate reason to be disappointed with their mom, but you don't have the right to continue to be disrespectful towards your mom. Meri's to the point where she wants to do an intervention and says, I just want to say you got to figure it out and let's fix this. She says she even would like to do that with Kody because they keep fiddling around. Meri tells Kody that Kody and her have done things to get along, but things have been very difficult with them for many years. I want Meri to stop fiddle farting, because that's the word she used to explain what they're doing, about what's been difficult, and for her to say what's been done, because I feel like Kody is treating Meri like crap. And to this day, we still don't know what exactly is done because she's still protecting him. Meri, if you ever watch these videos, do your tell-all, because you will get enough money to support yourself, because we really want to know. And I would not hesitate to read it on my channel, because it's time for you to stop protecting that jerk. And maybe she might not want to do it now because of what happened. No, girl, do it. I gotta be honest. Do it. Your voice needs to be heard because you keep talking about this stuff, but we still don't know anything. Meri wants him to make a decision. Let me calm down. On what he wants to move forward. Kody says most of his life, he would have been defensive about this conversation. That shows me there's something wrong with Kody, that he can't even handle the slightest bit of emotion from Meri or her asking him what it is that he wants. She's not being accusatory. She's asking you, what do you want? He says he's been confused on what the problem is. If you can't even have a conversation where your wife is telling you that she needs you to decide what you want to do, then part of the problem is him. Kody says, you're joking around, but do you feel like we need to do something differently than what we're doing? Meri says, yeah. Are you okay with what we're doing? She says, I'm sorry. You know me. I just want to get in there, do it, fix the problem, and I want to be able to move forward. I guess I'm more like Meri in this case than I've realized, because I don't want to fiddle fart, whatever she said. I don't want to do that either. Let's talk about it and figure it out. That is me. Meri finds herself in a similar place with Leon and Kody because she wants to address some of the problems, whereas they don't want to talk about it. He talks about how for months they've been going to see Nancy as a family. They should have been just seeing Nancy as a couple. Maybe they need to go on their own to discuss this themselves, is what Kody says. I don't understand why Nancy wouldn't suggest that prior. Meri agrees that they should go. Christine says that they aren't in as good as a place as they used to be, and it's sad to see. I'd like to know when Christine started seeing the change in this dynamic. Janelle says, when there are problems in one of the relationships, there's no avoiding it rippling through the family. And I feel like that's because it affects other members, and he probably goes and talks about it. In the Darker book, Love Times 3, they said something similar, except they do not allow it to linger to this extent. They try to have it resolved between whether it be the wives or the husband and that particular wife. But if they see that it's gone on too long, the other members of the family step in. And I think that is something that this family lacked because they never held each other accountable. Meri says Leon is mad about the catfish, and she does quote, situation. She says, you don't want me to say the word, but I'm going to say the word. I think Leon has something set in their mind about what they think went down. No, Leon knows something. Meri doesn't know if Leon is mad because she felt like she left Leon because Leon felt like Meri left them as a parent. Sorry, I want to make sure I get those right. Kody wants to know if Meri apologized to Leon because maybe Leon might feel like Meri did something wrong and that's why they're angry. And Meri says they won't talk to me. They're resentful of me and angry with me. And I think they enjoy that anger. Leon thinks one thing was happening. Kody says, so Leon thinks you were having an affair? Meri will never admit it. And I'm going to probably say this again in the next episode. But that's what Meri was doing. And part of the reason why this has caused such an issue to me and with their child is because they wouldn't just come out and be honest. Let's be clear. Leon is trying to punish Meri. Kody says, I told Meri that the wolves are outside of the fence, and if she stopped engaging, then it doesn't exist. It was talk, nothing physical. Kody doesn't believe that crap, even though that's what he's saying, but this is what he's saying right now, so we're going to go with it. Meri doesn't want things to be the same with them anymore. Kody feels like he hasn't been antagonistic with Meri, but he hasn't been there for her either. Just because you're arguing with someone or not arguing with someone doesn't mean that you're doing something right. It's clear that Kody checked out a long time ago. The girl's been talking about feeling lonely even a little bit before Leon left. He says, I'm not being antagonistic or passive aggressive, so I'm not sure if I understand. She just wants him to be close to her. Now he wants to see Nancy before going to see Leon. Meri does something that Kody wasn't expecting her to say on camera. She says, Kody, you're not around me very much. And there we have it, folks. You're not around me when I'm trying to have conversations with our child. They block me, they're snippy, and they're short with me. Kody says, maybe Leon is mad about you asking me not to be around. This lady was being manipulated by everybody because he makes that statement, but he's not explaining what Meri has explained to us, which is that he was not around her in more recent years. Meri has told us that he would lay in the bed with her and he wouldn't even hold her. He would turn the opposite way. His response is, you asked me not to be around you. You told me to go away. He's really holding on to that. It was a wrap for them. Could Leon be angry over that? He says, well, Meri, you asked me not to be in the house. Meri said, I never talked to them about that, Kody. I think that Kody did. He's asked by production, what's going on here? Is there anything they could talk about? He says, nope. He should have been made to answer this question since they dropped that ball. But this is part of the problem that they've had with this series, is that production has allowed them to pick and choose what they should and shouldn't talk about. I get you protecting the kids, but this situation is not about the kids. This is about these two grown adults. Don't sit here and act like you're this perfect family when you're playing favorite Kody or you're ostracizing the wives that get on your nerves. He's asked if he's hopeful about sorting this thing out, and his response is he's working hard not to be hopeless. Meri says, I don't even know if we're on the same page. He feels like maybe they can get to it. She says, Kody, do you know why I told you to go? He claims it's not clear. Kody is full of ish. Meri says, when I asked you for that break, I was in the middle of the situation with the catfish. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to crawl back on my knees? What are you waiting for? What do you want? He says, I think I know what I want. She says, what do you want? He said, I want to discuss that with Nancy. Kody doesn't want to say what he wants because at this point, Kody wanted out. He accuses Meri for asking those questions, and she wasn't doing so in an aggressive manner. He accuses her of being antagonistic, and that's why he wants to discuss it with Nancy. This man was horrible to her, and that's why the catfish got in. She pushed him away when she shouldn't have, according to her. He was already gone, hun. She's tired of being in limbo. He wants a peaceful, kind, and safe space. She says, I need to be able to come with you to something as simple as a ladder or trying to figure out the sprinkler system. Without you, Kody, telling me that it's too much for you. I can't do it, or I can't figure it out, or you tell me you'll call me later or talk to me about it later, and then you don't even come back and talk to me about it. He did not want that on camera. He always acts like Meri bothers him, and her making that statement proves it. She feels like she's doing life by herself. This is what she says, and she is. I'm not a man. I'll even go as far as to say that my man is not emotional by any means, by nature. But if he sees me crying, he's going to embrace me because he cares. If he sees me struggling with something, he's going to try to help me, even if he's not that great at it. Because he cares. If the bald eagle sees the bird crying, he just looks at her. Oh, I said that wrong. If the bald eagle sees the bird crying, he's going off on everybody. Whereas if he sees Meri crying, he just looks at her. If the bald eagle cries, the world is got to stop so that he can address that problem. Meri is pouring her heart out to this man, crying, and he's just looking down at the floor at his hands. He said, you said, get out my life to me. She said, you said, I'm not willing to cross a burning bridge for you anymore. He says, I don't remember that. He says, we don't go to see Nancy. We're going to be in this tit for tat situation all the way because she was saying too much. Everything that has been in the past. They don't do anything to fix the past. How can you move on if you don't address it? She says, I've asked you before. He says, I don't remember that. She says, you rejected me. He said, I don't remember rejecting you. That man told her he didn't want to go out first. He says, okay, we'll see her if that will help us to start. Meri says she doesn't think avoidance is how they're going to get there. He says, we'll see her and I'll reach out to Leon and I'll do, whatever happens first. Kody feels like this may be one of those conversations that it was a mistake to film. And I feel like that's only because he looks bad. Sorry for the little jumbled mess at the end, but you all get the gist. Basically, this man already, to me, had one foot out the door and was manipulating Meri left and right, making her feel like a nuisance, not supporting her, not being there for her, not doing his husbandly duties, and just being married on paper. And knowing that all this was going on, and she still sacrificed herself by giving them that divorce and further giving the bird more power, just shows how much she was neglected in this family. If you have not done so already, please like the video, please comment and subscribe. This was a long one. Sorry. No, I'm not sorry, because it was a long episode. This was a long one. If there's something that I didn't talk about that you want to, feel free to do it down below. Until next time.